right, well, let's begin. So Debbie, if you will screen share and we can do our opening prayers, would be great.
I will indeed. Let's begin as usual by taking several deep, relaxing breaths. Relax. Release any tension in your mind and body. And bring your mind home. Here are some inspirational words from Nyoshul Ken Rinpoche. Rest in natural great peace, this exhausted mind, beaten helpless by karma and neurotic thoughts. Like the relentless fury of the pounding waves in the infinite ocean of samsara, rest in natural great peace. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. And may they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. And may they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. So we are continuing. We will be talking about more about the peaceful deities tonight. So what I'd like to do is to begin on page 67, where we recite the daily aspirational prayer for his assistance to create our mindfulness. And then we will go to the daily recitations after death on page 76. And then we'll read through day 3 and get through day 3, and maybe we can do day 4, maybe day 5 this evening. So if we can turn to page 67. I should ask, does anybody have any questions or comments that you'd like to discuss before we get started? Now would be a good time to talk about anything. Okay, so then let's see. So if we can start on page 67. So Curtis, I see that you're with us this evening. Can you recite page 67, please?
Let me pass for now. I'll be able to be more present in a few minutes.
All right. And Eileen, will you read page 67? And John, will you read page 68 and 69? And we repeat that prayer. We repeat that 3 times. So Kate's not reading tonight. Sandra, would you read page 67? And Louisa, would you read page 68 and 69? And then Jane, will you read page 67 and then Jerry read page 68 and 69? So that will be 3 times for that. Then we go to page 76. 76. Bonnie, will you read page 76, please? And William, will you read page 77? Can you hear us, William and Bonnie?
Yeah, we got it connected. Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, so you got your page numbers, right? Then Debbie, will you read page 78? And that prayer goes down to page 79, if you see that, and that gets repeated 3 times. So if you will read that, please, 3 times, page 78, including the part of the prayer on page 79. And then Gary, if you will read page, the remainder of page 79. And Michael, will you read page 80? Tom, will you read page 81? Okay. Then we'll start again. So where it begins day 1 on page 81, Eileen, will you read that? John, will you read page 82? 83. Sandra, will you read page 83, please? And then Adrian, will you read page 84? And that prayer on page 84 needs to be repeated 3 times. So will you read that 3 times? And page 85, including day 2, Louisa, will you read page 85? Then page 86. Page 86. Jane, will you read page 86? And then Bhavani, will you read page 88, including the page 89 where that prayer is repeated?
Lance, I think you skipped 87.
Oh, I did. Oh, excuse me. All right, then 87. Where did I leave off with 86? Was that Jane reading page 86? Then Jerry, read page 87 then, please. Jerry, read page 87. Then 88, William, or excuse me, Bhavani, read page 88. And then the next, the prayer, repeat that 3 times on page 85. It goes back to page 88. And then William, will you read the remainder of page 89? And page 90? Debbie, will you read page 90? So this is the first time we'll be seeing day 3, so page 90. And then Gary, will you read page 91? And Michael, will you read page 92? And then Tom, will you read, oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Michael was reading page 92, correct? Okay, then Tom, will you read page 93 down to, and including the first couple lines on page 94 up to day 4. And you notice that that prayer gets repeated 3 times. So we're doing this as if we were doing a practice. So including the 3 times and so on. So this is so that we get rehearsal practice being able to do this and create mindfulness. Okay, so we begin on page 67. So I think it was Eileen who was beginning. Please start when you're ready.
Aspiration prayer calling to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for assistance. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, abiding in the 10 directions, refuge of living beings, imbued with compassion, imbued with knowledge, imbued with clear vision, and imbued with love. Come to this place by the power of your compassion and accept this display and visualize offerings. O compassionate ones, as you are the fountain of all knowing, pristine cognition of loving compassion, of effective activity, and of a power to grant refuge. Beyond conception, come to this place. O compassionate ones, this human being, Rikibu Eileen, is leaving this world and journeying to another shore. She is being cast off from this world and approaching the great transition of death. Suffering deeply, she is without a friend, without a refuge, without a protector, and without a companion. Her perception of this life is fading away. She is moving on to another world, entering a dense darkness of falling into an unfathomable abyss, entering the thick forest of doubt. She will be driven on by the potency of past actions. She will be entering a great wilderness, born
away on the great ocean and driven on by the vital winds of past actions. He will be moving in a direction where there is no firm ground, entering a great battlefield, being seized by great malevolent forces, and becoming overwhelmed by fear and terror upon meeting the executors of the unfailing laws of cause and effect. In accordance with his past actions, powerless to resist, he may even yet again be entering the realms of rebirth. The time has come when he has no choice but to move on alone, leaving his dear friends behind. O compassionate ones, grant refuge now to this person, Rikibu Kunchok Samten, who has no refuge. protect him, be his companion, defend him from the great wilderness of the intermediate state, turn back the great hurricane of past actions, protect him from the great fear and terror of the unfailing laws of cause and effect, rescue him from the long and dangerous pathways of the intermediate state. O compassionate ones, be unsparing in your compassion. Grant assistance to him. Do not allow him to be expelled into the three kinds of inferior existence. Without wavering from your ancient vows, swiftly release the power of your compassion. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, for the sake of this person, Rigi Bu Kunchok Samden, be unsparing in your compassion. Do not allow this sentient being to fall under the power of negative past actions. O three precious jewels, protect us from the sufferings of the intermediate state. Om Ah Hong.
O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas abiding in the 10 directions, refuge of living beings, imbued with compassion, imbued with knowledge, imbued with clear vision, and imbued with love, come to this place by the power of your compassion and accept these displayed and visualized offerings. O compassionate ones, as you are the fountain of all-knowing pristine cognition, of loving compassion, of effective activity, and of a power to grant refuge beyond conception, come to this place. O compassionate ones, this human being, child of Buddha nature, Rikyabu, Mary Clementi, is leaving this world and journeying to another shore. She is being cast off from this world and approaching the great transition of death. Suffering deeply, she is without a friend, without a refuge, without a protector, and without a companion. Her perception of this life is fading away. She is moving on to another world, entering a dense darkness and falling into an unfathomable abyss. Entering the thick forest of doubt, she will be driven on by the potency of past actions. She will be entering a great wilderness, born.
Away on a great ocean and driven on by the vital winds of past actions. She will be moving in a direction where there is no firm ground, entering a great battlefield, being seized by a great malevolent forces and becoming overwhelmed by fear and terror upon meeting the executors of the unfailing laws of cause and effect. In accordance with her past actions, powerless to resist, she may even yet again be entering the realms of rebirth. The time has come when she has no choice but to move on alone, leaving her dear friends behind. O compassionate ones, grant refuge now to this person, Ricky Boo, Louisa, who has no refuge. Protect her, be her companion, defend her from the great darkness of the intermediate state. Turn back the great hurricane of past actions. Protect her from the great fear and terror of the unfailing laws of cause and effect. Rescue her from the long and dangerous pathways of the intermediate state. O compassionate ones, be unsparing in your compassion. Grant assistance to her. Do not allow her to be expelled by the three kinds of inferior existence. Without wavering from ancient vows, swiftly release the power of your compassion. O Buddhas and Buddhavistas, for the sake of this person, Ricky Boo, Louisa, be unsparing in your compassion. Do not this sentient beings to fall upon the power of negative past action. O three precious jewels, protect us from the sufferings of the intermediate state. Hong Hi Hong.
Aspirational prayer calling to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for assistance. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, abiding in 10 directions, refuge of living beings, imbued with compassion, imbued with knowledge, imbued with clear vision, and imbued with love, come to this place by the power of your compassion and accept these displayed and visualized offerings. O compassionate ones, as you are the fountain of all-knowing, pristine cognition of loving compassion, of effective activity, and of a power to grant refuge beyond conception, come to this place. O compassionate ones, this human being, Rikibu Jane, is leaving this world and journeying to another shore. She is being cast off from this world and approaching the great transition of death. Suffering deeply, she is without a friend, without a refuge, without a protector, and without a companion. Her perception of this life is fading away. She is moving on to another world, entering a dense darkness and falling into an unfathomable abyss. Entering the thick forest of doubt, she will be driven on by the potency of past actions. She will be entering a great wilderness, borne
away on a great ocean and driven on by the vital winds of past actions. He will be moving in a direction where there is no firm ground, entering a great battlefield, being seized by great malevolent forces and becoming overwhelmed by fear and terror upon meeting the executors of the unfailing laws of cause and effect. In accordance with his past actions, powerless to resist, he may even yet again be entering the realms of rebirth. The time has come when he has no choice but to move on alone, leaving his dear friends behind. O compassionate ones, grant refuge now to this person, Rikibu Jerry, who has no refuge. Protect him, be his companion, defend him from the great darkness of the intermediate state. Turn back the great hurricane of past actions. Protect him from the great fear and terror of the unfailing laws of cause and effect. Rescue him from the long and dangerous pathways of the intermediate state. O compassionate ones, be sparing in your compassion. Grant assistance to him. Do not allow him to be expelled into the three kinds of inferior existence. Without wavering from your ancient vows, swiftly release the power of your compassion. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, for the sake of this person, Rikibu Jerry, be unsparing in your compassion. Do not allow this sentient being to fall under the power of negative past actions. O three precious jewels, protect us from the sufferings of the intermediate state. Ah, oh, hum. Oh, ah, hum.
Page 76, who is reading that, please? I think that was Bhavani.
Sorry. Part 1. An elucidation of the intermediate state of the time of death and the appearance of the peaceful deities in the intermediate state of reality. Introduction to the intermediate state of reality. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Bhavani, listen very intently and without distraction. There are 6 kinds of intermediate states, namely, the intermediate state of living or natural existence, the intermediate state of dreams, the intermediate state of meditative stability or concentration, the intermediate state of the time of death, the intermediate state of reality, and the intermediate state of consequent rebirth.
O child of Buddha nature, Rikipu, William, during and after death, you will experience 3 intermediate states. The intermediate state of the time of death, the intermediate state of reality, and the intermediate state of rebirth. Of these three, it was the intermediate state of the time of death which you experienced until yesterday. Although the inner radiance of reality arose during that time, you did not recognize it. So now, as a result, you have been completed. Compelled, okay. You have been compelled to wander here. And now you will experience the intermediate state of reality, followed by the intermediate state of rebirth. You must therefore recognize without distraction the instruction and events which I am going to introduce to you. O child of Buddha nature, Rikabutri, William, that which is called death has now arrived. You are leaving this world, but in this, you are not alone. This happens to everyone. Do not be attached to this life. Do not cling to this life.
Even if you remain attached and clinging, you do not have the power to stay. You will only continue to roam within the cycles of existence. Therefore, do not be attached and do not cling. Think of the three precious jewels. O child of Buddha nature, Rikyu Kunchoklamo, however terrifying the appearances of the intermediate state of reality might be, do not forget the following words. Go forward, remembering their meaning. The crucial point is that through them, recognition may be attained. Alas, now, as the intermediate state of reality arises before me, renouncing the merest thought of awe, terror, or fear, I will recognize all that arises to be awareness, manifesting naturally of itself. Knowing such sounds, lights, and rays to be visionary phenomena of the intermediate state. At this moment, having reached this critical point, I must not fear the assembly of peaceful and wrathful deities, which manifest naturally. Alas, now as the intermediate state of reality arises before me, renouncing the merest thought of awe, terror, or fear, I will recognize all that arises to be awareness, manifesting naturally of itself. Knowing such sounds, lights, and rays to be visionary phenomena of the intermediate state. At this moment, having reached this critical point, I must not fear the assembly of peaceful and wrathful deities, which manifest naturally. Alas, now as the intermediate state of reality arises before me, renouncing the merest thought of awe, terror, or fear, I will recognize all that arises to be awareness, manifesting naturally of itself. Knowing such sounds, lights, and rays to be visionary phenomena of the intermediate state. At this moment, having reached this critical point, I must not fear the assembly of peaceful and wrathful deities, which manifests naturally.
Go forward, reciting these words distinctly, and be mindful of their meaning. Do not forget them, for it is essential to recognize with certainty that whatever terrifying experiences may arise, they are natural manifestations of actual reality. Oh, child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Gary, When your mind and body separate, the pure, luminous apparitions of reality itself will arise, subtle and clear, radiant and dazzling, naturally bright and awesome, shimmering like a plain in summer. Do not fear them. Do not be terrified. Do not be awed. They are natural luminosities of your own actual reality. Therefore, recognize them as they are.
O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Michael, from within these lights, the natural sound of reality will resound, clear and thunderous, reverberating like 1,000 simultaneous peals of thunder. This is the natural sound of your own actual reality. So do not be afraid. Do not be terrified. Do not be awed. The body you now have is called a mental body. It is the product of subtle propensities and not a solid corporeal body of flesh and blood. Therefore, whatever sounds, lights, or rays may arrive, they cannot harm you. For you are beyond death now. It is enough that you simply recognize the sounds and luminosities to be manifestations of your own actual reality. Know that this is the intermediate state. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Michael, if you do not recognize these phenomena to be natural manifestations, whatever meditative practices you may have undertaken whilst in the human world, if you have not previously encountered this present instruction, you will fear the light, you will be awed by the sound, and you will be
terrified by the rays. If you do not now understand this essential point of the teaching, you will not recognize the sounds, the lights, and the rays. You will continue to roam within the cycles of existence. O child Buddha nature, Rikibu, Eileen, should you have moved on without recognition, after having been unconscious for up to 3.5 days, you will awaken from unconsciousness and wonder, what has happened to me? So recognize this to be the intermediate state. At this time, the aspect of the cycles of existence are reversed into their own true nature, and all phenomena are arising as lights and Buddha bodies. Day 1. On the first day of the intermediate state of reality, all space will arise as a blue light. At this time, from the central
Buddha field called pervasive seminal point, the transcendent Lord Vairochana will dawn before you, his body white in color, seated on a lion throne, holding in his right hand an 8-spoke wheel and embraced by his consort Akasha Datishwari, a blue luminosity, radiant and clear, bright and dazzling, indicative of the pristine cognition of reality's expanse, which is the natural purity of your aggregate of consciousness, will emanate from the heart of Vairochana and his consort, and will shine piercingly before you at the level of your heart with such brilliance that your eyes cannot bear it. Together with this luminosity, a dull white light indicative of the realm of the gods will also dawn directly before you and touch your heart. At this time, under the sway of negative past actions, you will wish to flee in fear and terror from the bright blue light, which is the pristine cognition of reality's expanse. And you will come to perceive the dull white light of the God's realms with delight. At this moment, do not be awed by the blue luminosity, which is radiant and dazzling.
Clear and very bright. This is the supreme inner radiance of pristine cognition. Do not be terrified. This is the light ray of the Tathagata, which is called the pristine cognition of reality's expanse. Have confidence in it. Be drawn to it with longing devotion. Pray with devotion, thinking, this is the light ray of the transcendent Lord Vairocana's compassion. I take refuge in it. For this in reality is the transcendent Lord Vairocana and his consort come to escort you on the dangerous pathway of the intermediate state. This is the light ray of Vairocana's compassion. Therefore, do not delight in the dull white light of the God realms. Do not be attached to it. Do not cling to it. This dull white light is the inviting path created by your own habitual tendencies for deep delusion, which you yourself have generated. If you become attached to it, you will roam within the God realms and be drawn into the cycles of existence of the 6 classes of beings. This dull light is an obstruction, blocking the path to liberation. Do not look at it. Be devoted.
Be devoted to the bright blue light. Focus intently on the transcendent Lord Vairocana and repeat after me the following aspirational prayer. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated delusion, may the transcendent Lord Vairocana draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the pristine cognition of reality's expanse. May the Supreme Consort Akasha, Latishvari, support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state, and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated delusion, may the transcendent Lord Vairocana draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the pristine cognition of reality's expanse. May the Supreme Consort, Akasha Datishvari, support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated delusion, may the transcendent Lord Vairocana draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the pristine cognition of reality's expanse. May the Supreme Consort Akasha Datishvari support me from behind, and thus, encircled, may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state, and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha.
By making this aspirational prayer with fervent devotion, you will dissolve into rainbow light in the heart of Vairocana and his consort, and you will attain Buddhahood as the Buddha body of perfect resource in the central Buddha field of the dense array, Chana Yagha. Day 2. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Louisa, listen without distraction. On the secure day, the purity of the entire element water will arise in the forms of white light. At that time, from the eastern Buddha field of manifest joy, Abrikalti, the transcendent Lord Agashapya, Vairocana, will dawn before you, his body blue in color, holding in his right hand a 5-pronged varja. Seated on the elephant throne and embraced by his consort, Buddha Lakana. They are
encircled by 2 male Bodhisattvas, Kasatgarbha and Maitreya, and 2 female Bodhisattvas, Lasya and Puspa. The 6 Buddha bodies will be shining before you from within a space of rainbow light, a brilliant white light indicative of the mirror-like pristine cognition, which is the natural purity of the aggregate of form, white and dazzling, radiant and clear, will emanate from the heart of Vajrasattva Akshobhya and his consort, and it will shine piercingly before you at the level of your heart with such brilliance that your eyes cannot bear it. Together that with this light of pristine cognition, a dull smoky light indicative of the hell realms will also dawn before you and touch your heart.
At that time, under the sway of aversion, you will wish to turn away in fear and terror from the bright white light and come to perceive the dull smoky light of the hell realms with delight. At that moment, you should fearlessly recognize the white light, white and dazzling, radiant and clear, to be pristine cognition. Have confidence in it. Be drawn to it with compassion. Take refuge in it. This in reality is Vajrasattva Akshobhya and his consort come to escort you on the dangerous pathway of the intermediate state. This is the light ray hook of Vajrasattva Akshobhya, compassion. Be devoted to it. Do not delight in the dull smoky light of the hell realms. This dull light is the inviting path of the negative obscurations created by your own deep aversion, which you yourself have generated. If you become attached to it, you will fall into the realms of hell, sinking into the swamp of unbearable
suffering, from which there will be no immediate opportunity for escape. This dull light is an obstacle blocking the path to liberation. Do not look at it. Abandon your aversion. Do not be attached to it. Do not cling to it. Be devoted to the white light, radiant and dazzling. Focus intently on the transcendent Lord Vajrasattva Ascobia and recite the following aspirational prayer. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated aversion, may the transcendent Lord Vajrasattva Ascobia draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the mirror-like pristine cognition. May the Supreme Consort, Buddha Lokana, support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued.
From the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha.
Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated aversion, may the transcendent Lord Vajrasattva Ascobia draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the mirror-like pristine cognition. May the Supreme Consort, Buddha Lokana, support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued.
From the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha.
Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated aversion, may the transcendent Lord Vajrasattva Ascobia draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the mirror-like pristine cognition. May the Supreme Consort, Buddha Lokana, support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued.
From the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. By making this aspirational prayer with reverent devotion, you will dissolve into rainbow light in the heart of transcendent Lord Vajrasattva Ascobia, and you will attain Buddhahood as the Buddha body of perfect resource in the Eastern Buddha field of manifest joy, Abra. Day 3, O child of Buddha nature, Rigby, William, listen without distraction. On the third day, the purity of the entire element earth will arise in the form of a yellow light. At this time, the yellow southern Buddha field of the
Glorious Srimat, the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava, will dawn before you, his body yellow in color, holding in his right hand a jewel, seated on a horse throne and embraced by his supreme consort Mamaki. They are encircled by two male bodhisattvas, Akasagarbha and Samantabhadra, and two female bodhisattvas, Malya and Dupa. Thus, 6 Buddha bodies will be shining before you from within a space of rainbow light. A yellow light indicative of the pristine cognition of sameness, which is the natural purity of the aggregate of feeling, yellow and dazzling, adorned by greater and lesser seminal points of light, radiant, clear, and unbearable to the eyes, will emanate from the heart of Ratnasambhava and his consort, and will shine piercingly before you at the level of your heart, with such brilliance that your eyes cannot bear it. Together with the light of pristine cognition, a dull blue light indicative of the human realm will also dawn before you and touch your heart.
Well, 91 wasn't assigned. I'll read it then. At that time, under the sway of pride, you will wish to turn away.
I had it.
Beg your pardon?
I had it. I'm sorry, my mic was off.
All right, please continue then.
I'm very sorry. Okay, at that time, under the sway of pride, you will wish to turn away in fear from terror, from the bright yellow light, and you will come to delight in the dull blue light of the human realm and feel attachment towards it. At that moment, abandon your fear of the yellow light and recognize it as pristine cognition, yellow and dazzling, radiant and clear. Let your awareness relax and abide directly within it, in a state of non-activity. Again and again, have confidence in it. Be drawn to it with longing devotion. If you recognize it as the natural luminosity of your own awareness, even though you may feel no devotion towards it and have not recited the aspirational prayer, all the Buddha bodies and light rays will dissolve inseparably into you, and you will attain Buddhahood. If you are unable to recognize the radiance as being the natural luminosity of your own awareness, then pray with devotion, thinking, this is the light ray of the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava's compassion. I take refuge in it. This in reality is the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava, come to escort you on the
Fearsome, dangerous path of the intermediate state. This is the light ray hook of Ratnasambhava's compassion. Be devoted to it. Do not delight in the dull blue light of the human realm. This dull light is the inviting path created by your own habitual tendencies for deep-seated pride, which you yourself have generated. If you become attached to it, you will tumble down into the human realm. You will experience the sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, and death. And there will be no immediate opportunity to escape from the swamp of cyclic existence. This dull light is an obstacle blocking the path to liberation. Do not look at it. Abandon pride. Abandon your habitual tendencies. Do not be attached to the dull blue light. Do not cling to it. Be devoted to the yellow light, golden and dazzling. Focus intently and single-mindedly on the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava and recite the following aspirational prayer.
Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated pride, may the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava draw before me. leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the pristine cognition of sameness. May the supreme consort Mamaki support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated pride, may the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the pristine cognition of sameness. May the supreme consort Mamaki support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated pride, may the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the pristine cognition of sameness. May the supreme consort Mamaki support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. By making this aspirational prayer with fervent devotion, will dissolve with the rainbow light, the heart of the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava, and you will attain Buddhahood as the Buddha body of perfect resource in the southern Buddha field of the glorious Srimat.
Okay, thank you all. So this is day 3. So this is when we are experiencing the Ratna family, or the jewel family. The Ratna is a jewel. In Sanskrit language, jewel means Ratna. So Ratna Sambhava means born. So born in the jewel. What this also represents is this particular Buddha field is the Buddha field of being on what we would call the planet Earth, like the planet Earth. So here, everything is a jewel to us. We should see everything as a jewel, that everything is a gift to us that is rich and brings us great understanding and wealth and so on like that. So Ratnasambhava is the symbolic of all of that. So this is the earth element, and arises from the form of a yellow light that is issuing forth from the heart of Ratnasambhava. So this bright, very, very bright, intense yellow light, if we recognize this light, we should go to that light like we're being pulled in, like a tractor beam that is attaching to our heart, it's pulling our heart into it, so that we can be liberated into the Buddha field of Ratnasambhava. So this is the southern Buddha field of the glorious Srimat. And another name for that is Jamvupipa, that this continent, as it might be called, is called Jamvupipa or Srimat. The transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava will dawn before you, his body yellow in color, holding in his right hand a jewel, seated on a horse throne, embraced by his supreme consort, Mamaki. And she represents the earth element, the element of earth. So the horse throne, the horse represents speed and swiftness. So each of the thrones of the Buddha families, of the 5 Buddha families, has a particular animal that is supporting it. And in the case of Ratnasambhava, it is the horse. So meaning speed, swiftness. They are encircled by 2 male bodhisattvas. So we're looking at this image I've got up on the screen, and you can see it on the page 90 on the right side of the page. So in the center is Ratnasambhava with his consort, Mamaki. And then to his right is, I have to look at that closely. To his right is Ascobia. Excuse me, to his right is Samantabhadra. To his left is Akasagarbha. Akasagarbha has a sword in his hand, and in Samantabhadra, he has a vessel in his hand, and he is holding incense in that vessel there, and Ascarbia has that sword. So these are the perfection of transformation and devotion. So Ascarbia represents the transformation of being able to grow, and Ascobia and Samantabhadra is being able to have devotion. So remember that the analogy that we were using, that we started with last time, was that these bodhisattvas are the human perfections. And we use the analogy of being a gardener. So last week we talked about that Kasiti Garbha had the commitment to want to be able to do this, had the wanted to plant the garden, wanted and to be able to grow the seeds of enlightenment. His brother is Maitreya, the Bodhisattva Maitreya, and Maitreya, I'll go back a picture, and Maitreya wanted to, he had the loving kindness, he had the wisdom to be able to know how to do this. So Kasiti Garbha had the cultivation, wanted to do the cultivating, wanted to cultivate this garden. Maitreya had the loving kindness, the wisdom to be able to do it. So now in this next family, we have Akasagarbha, who now, through the transformation of Samantabhadra, of being able to planting the seed and so on, that the seed is sprouting, and now we're beginning to get growth, and we're beginning to transform that seed now into a living object, into a living thing. So that's the transformation. So the devotion of wanting to do this, of making sure that it gets the right nutrients from the earth, that it gets the right water from the rain, that it gets the right sunlight from the sun, the proper warmth and so on. And from that, the seed germinates and begins to grow. So these are human perfections that we are trying to do if we view this seed as our enlightenment. First, we want to cultivate it. We want to have wisdom. We want to be able to have devotion to make this grow. And then we have to allow for the transformation. We have to give room for the transformation. We have to understand that the transformation will come and not be upset by the transformation, to allow it to manifest. So then behind this are the two sisters. So the bodhisattva, female bodhisattvas. So behind is Dupa, and Dupa has a vessel, and here is the incense. This is the vessel of incense that she is holding. In front of the family is Maya, and this is a mala beads, a garland. So this represents the string of being able to see this method being carried out. And the incense is protection against evil and confusion and so on. So going back to the Vajra family that we talked about last week, here in front of us was Pushpa and Lasya. So Lhasa is the beauty, and here she's holding a mirror in her hand, showing the mirror that reflects her beauty. And then in Pushpa, who is behind, she's holding a bundle of flowers, which represents kindness and generosity and beauty, and being able to share that with other beings. So these are all human attributes that we need to be able to recognize and to exalt and to allow to manifest. So they're encircled by the two, back to the text, we have the male bodhisattvas Akasagarbha and Samantabhadra, the two female bodhisattvas Mala and Dupa. Thus, the 6 Buddha bodies will be shining before you from within a space of rainbow light. So this rainbow light are the different colors. So this color of Ratnasambhava is the color yellow, a golden yellow color. The color of Ascobia was a blue color. So blue and yellow now are being displayed, or we're recognizing them. Then we'll see red and we'll see green coming up in the next with the next deities. So now it says on the text, page 90, it says a yellow light indicative of the pristine cognition of sameness. So the pristine cognition is the clear light, this clear light, this pristine cognition of sameness, of recognizing that all things are same. Ratnasambhava is the embodiment of the wisdom of equanimity. So equanimity, sameness, so that all things here in the earth, all things are the same. We're all made up of the same material. We are all the same. So no matter who we are, rich or poor, young or old, man or woman, whatever, whether it's we're looking at human beings, or we're looking at animals, or we're looking at animals of the oceans, or animals that are subterranean, or we're looking at the trees, we're looking at other part, the plant kingdom and so on, all made up of the same material, all made up of tissues and of molecules and of fibers and of atoms and of subatomic atomic structures and so on. So we're all the same, the pristine cognition of sameness, that we recognize that, which is the natural purity of the aggregate of feeling. So this feeling is that we have this our form is what we recognize in the Vajra family, and this family was formed. The body now comes feeling, and this sense of emotions, this sense of being aware of things, of having love, family love, more basic things that have to do with being a human being and so on. So this aggregate of feeling, and that the sameness that pervades all of this. So this light is yellow and dazzling, adorned by greater and lesser seminal points of light. Radiant and clear, unbearable to the eyes, will emanate from the heart of Ratnasambhava and his consort, and shine piercingly before you at the level of your heart with such brilliance that your eyes cannot bear it. So these seminal points, so it's like from within the heart of Ratnasambhava are these points of light that are radiating this light, sending out this light, going in all directions. And these rays of light, these shoots of light, all combine together and become this very, very, very powerful yellow light. So powerful that we've never seen anything like this before. And it's very easy for us to be overpowered by this light. But we have to see that this light is our own light, that we are generating this, that this is in our own heart center. Ratnasambhava is within us. Ascobia is within us. All these deities are within us. All these bodhisattvas are within us. So all these deities and so on are just anthropomorphic symbolism of the meaning of these different things, so that we as human beings can comprehend this. But we need to be able to look at this at its essence level. And to do that, we need to experience that. It's not something that we can read. It's not something that we can be talked to, that someone can explain to us. We have to be able to experience this light, this essence. So this, of course, is the meditation that we talk about all the time. So when we recognize that light, it means that we have recognized ourselves as the light. If we don't, then we are repelled by the light. The light is too powerful for us, and we look for something more comfortable, which would be this dark or this dull blue light. And this blue light, this dull blue light, is indicative of the human realm, which will dawn before you and touch your heart. So this blue light just is so familiar to us, and we will go to that, or we might want to go to that, because the yellow light is too intense. The blue light would be something that we are familiar with, so we would have a propensity to want to be drawn to that and be born in that, or not even to recognize that we're going to be born in it, but just to look at it from being comfortable, from being like a home to us. So it says at that time, I'm on page 91 now, it says at that time, under the sway of pride, you will wish to turn away in fear and terror from the bright yellow light, and you will come to delight in the dull blue light of the human realm and feel attachment towards it. So this pridefulness is this human arrogance that we can know things, and that this yellow light, is so powerful. This Bardo experience is so powerful and maybe so foreign to us that we're not familiar with it. And our arrogance saying, oh, I know what it is to be a human being, and that feels good to me, I will go to the blue light, out of our pridefulness, because we think we know what that is. And you know how sometimes when we don't know something, we will fabricate a story around it to be able to keep us from not knowing. The fear of not knowing something is so great that we don't want to be in that state, that we will create a story that we can hold on to, a delusional story, something that we can hold on to in order to take pride in that. Oh, I know what this is. I know what this story is. I can make my life like this. So we can live a whole entire life based on all these stories that we tell ourselves, these delusions and so on, and we carry these out and tell other people, and these become our persona, and we each have these things. So now it says, at that moment, abandon your fear of the yellow light and recognize it as pristine cognition, as the clear light, as the realization of enlightenment, yellow and dazzling, radiant and clear. Let your awareness relax and abide directly within it. Let your awareness relax and abide directly within it. So just be focused on the yellow light. Just let it, you become one with it. Like we say, water being poured into water, or we say a child running into the lap of its mother. Thinking, this is the light ray of the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava's compassion. I take refuge in it. Thus, in reality, is the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava come to escort you onto the fearsome, dangerous pathway of the intermediate state. This is the light ray hook of Ratnasambhava's compassion. Be devoted to it. Do not delight in the dull blue light of the human realm. So remember, we might have said, you might remember that the feminine, the consort, the female consort, she represents the wisdom. But the male represents the actualization of that wisdom, the skillful means, the method, the going out. So he is pulling you in. He is doing the action of pulling you in to the wisdom, to her heart, to the heart of them together. So we need to be able to recognize this. So we do this, of course, through our practices, through our meditations and so on, to get familiar with this. So if we're able to focus on this yellow light, we don't even recognize, we don't even pay attention to the dull blue light. However, though, this dull light is the inviting path created by your own habitual tendencies for deep-seated pride, which you yourself have generated. So talking about, through our pridefulness, through our arrogance, that we have generated this pridefulness. If you become attached to it, you will tumble down into the human realm. You will experience the sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, and death, and there will be no immediate opportunity to escape from the swamp of cyclic existence. So when we are in meditation, when we are sitting there and maybe we have a moment of complete clarity, of complete lucidity, of complete awareness of all things around us, but then comes this thought. Something happens to bring us out of that, to bring us back into our human awareness, to our human body, to our human thinking, and so on. And so in this case, we can say that this is our pridefulness that may be one of these things that pulls us back. Our hatred may be something that pulls us back. Our attachments may be something that pulls us back. Our jealousy may be something that pulls us back. So it's something that we are attaching to, something that we are thinking about as a human being. We're being pulled away from being a Buddha, from being enlightened, being pulled away by our lower consciousness level of being an ordinary human being is pulling us back. So it says that then we're experiencing the birth, old age, sickness, and death, and with no immediate opportunity to escape from the swamp of cyclic existence. So we're in the midst of the cyclic existence now, and we're being pulled back in this. So we do this during our meditations, but during our meditations, we have the opportunity to be able to understand what this is and be able to prepare ourselves to go to these lights, to recognize these lights within ourselves, that we rescue ourselves. So this dull light, back on page 92 now, it says this dull light is an obstacle blocking the path to liberation. Do not look at it. Abandon pride. Abandon your habitual tendencies. Do not be attached to the dull blue light. Do not cling to it. Be devoted to the yellow light, golden and dazzling. Focus intently and single-mindedly on the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava and recite the following aspirational prayer. So we recite this prayer for the Bardo beings. And we say, oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated pride, may the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the pristine cognition of sameness. May the supreme consort, Mamaki, support me from behind, and thus encircled may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. And it says, by making this aspirational prayer with fervent devotion, you will dissolve into rainbow light in the heart of the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava, and you will attain Buddhahood as the the Buddha body, a perfect resource in the southern Buddha field of the glorious Shamat. So what we want to do is to be able to recite these prayers, to make this part of our practice as a living human being now, so that these prayers are reminders of what we experience in our meditation, so that we get more and more familiar with it, so that when we leave our body, when we die and our body goes away, we become just pure spirit. Now we are familiarized with these Buddhas, with these lights and so on. We won't recognize the Buddhas. The Buddhas won't exist in the way that we're looking at these illustrations. But the way that we will remember them is through our heart thoughts, our big mind, developing this awareness of our true nature, of this Buddha nature that we are cultivating in this life. So there is the analogy of the gardener, that we're cultivating this through wisdom, through devotion, through transformation. So we're applying all these different deity aspects, which are all within us. So I'm sure that's a lot. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this, please?
So I like.
Go ahead, Adrian.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to say I like how you said that the way that we remember these deities is through the thoughts of our heart, through, I guess, our experiences that we are creating in our during our meditation, and we're going to be able to recognize them when we pass. So I just want to reiterate that, I guess.
Well, that's right. And if we don't do it in our meditation in this life, there's little chance that we're going to recognize it in the Bardo.
My question was, though, like when you're in the intermediate state, basically what's pulling you towards one light or the other is your karma, your karmic winds, right? Like the result
The
of
karma is pulling you back into being a human being.
Right. Towards the blue light, towards the blue
light, yes.
Soul light, right? Versus, I forgot what was the color, versus the yellow
light.
Yeah. So, like, I just wanted to see, is there, like, you'll be drawn towards those dull lights inevitably if you have a lot of karma that you're carrying with you, right?
Yes.
But so I don't know how to ask this, but I'm just going to say it. But so do this. What is the role of the prayers? You know, if you didn't practice, for somebody who didn't practice in this life, to eliminate or to neutralize the karma.
To help them, to help them that you're sending this light, the meaning of these prayers. If you know the meaning of these prayers, you are sending these heart thoughts to all these beings that are in this Bardo experience. So you're generating this light, to them. So we're doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for them. We're, in the case of reading it for someone who has passed away, we're focusing on them. But for us to be able to be effective in that, we have to have done it for ourselves. If we're just reading it for them without being able to be the embodiment of it of ourselves, there's little benefit. So that's why we're engaged in this whole thing about this introduction of the Bardo Thodol, to be able to encourage everybody to be able to develop their own cultivation of this awareness for themselves, to be able to wake up and see their their heart thoughts, to be able to recognize their heart thoughts that are beyond expression. You have to experience these heart thoughts. If you've had deep samadhi, deep experience with this, you know it's not something that you can articulate, but you know what it is. There's a gnosis, and that's what we're trying to awaken.
And ultimately, it's done for yourself as well as for all the other.
Correct. We're familiar. We're doing it here. We're learning it ourselves. We're trying to save ourselves, but we're doing it so that we can help others.
For the benefit of all sentient beings.
That's right.
Thank you, Landon.
You're welcome.
I just had a brief comment and then an idea. This is Samantabhadra, the Bodhisattva, not Samantabhadra, the primordial Buddha, just so people if they need a reminder of that.
That's correct. Samyang Kundu Zangpo. Correct. Yeah.
The other thing, one way of thinking about the, I guess, all this Bardo Thodol is that it's like a roadmap. And without the roadmap, I'm going to make certain turns because of habit and because of the forces within me. But if I have a roadmap, I have an opportunity, and I study it real well, I have an opportunity to change the direction I might otherwise follow because I can recognize the turns that I wouldn't otherwise recognize.
Yeah, that's a simile for it, but yes, yes, it's a familiarization.
I have another question, if I may.
Okay.
Do we have any meditational experiences in this Bardo as humans that we tend to turn away from, like we do in the intermediate state? Like, the pure lights are so strong to us in the intermediate state that we turn away from them, trying to seek some comfort into, other parts of the intermediate state.
Well, the intermediate state, remember, is a general term, is what the Bardo means, the intermediate state. So there's 6 Bardos.
Right.
So if you're referring, when you say the intermediate state, if you're talking about the Bardo of reality, which is where we experience these, the ability to be able to go to the lights and so on, like we're talking about here, if that's what you're referring to. But so we familiarize ourselves that in the Bardo of meditative concentration,
and that's why I'm
which is in the Bardo of living, which is
right.
what we are in now.
And that's what I'm trying to get to. Like in the Bardo of living, meditational experiences, are there any experiences like that we tend to shy away from? They're like so strong, so intense that our habitual tendencies will be like, I cannot handle this.
Well, that's right. And that's when, the emotions are grabbing you, or your pride is grabbing you and saying, oh, you don't need to do that. Why are you sitting there doing that? You could be out having fun.
And Adrian, your question actually reminds me of something my husband said tonight. He has a bit of PTSD from his military experience, and he cannot go to the fireworks on Monday night. And I think, that's an experience in this life of intense sound, intense light, that for some people is very overwhelming and very distressing. I'm not sure if that's what you meant in something in this life, an analogy.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, so that's why we have the blessing of having this life and the opportunity to cultivate our meditations so that we can prepare ourselves for the Bardo of reality.
And to see everything as sameness.
To see that, right. So does anybody else have a question or comment?
I have a comment.
Yes.
I often have realizations in dreams. So
Okay.
one time, many years ago, I had a dream that I was in the void, and I don't know if it was a lucid dream, but I think so. And it was all black, but it was an auditory dream. And there was an omniscient voice saying, "What is my name? What is my name?" And sort of laughing and giggling at me. "What is my name?" And I was filled with love. I wasn't afraid at all. And the second I woke up, it was Amitabha. So I don't know.
Okay. So where was Amitabha?
In the void. It was just a voice.
And where was that?
I don't know if it was between life and death and when you're disillusion of the senses and it's just blackness.
Well, was it out there or was it in here?
No, it seemed to be out in the void, in space.
Uh-huh. Well, is space, are you not space?
Yes, I am, but I was hearing it with my ear senses.
Well, so it becomes an experience, and interpreting the experience is important. And this is the dreams. The dreams are these sometimes involuntary experiences of being in, the meditative state of being in the bardo of reality, and being able to interpret it becomes, quite important and so on. So my point is saying that all this was happening within you.
Yes, probably.
And that's what we need to familiarize ourselves with. This is what we need to, all these heart thoughts are within ourselves and so on.
Yes.
And
that's what, I was the dreamer. I was the dreamer.
What's that?
I was the dreamer dreaming the dream.
Correct. Yeah. So, and you are the dream.
Yeah, but there was no fear. That was so lovely about it. It was just all compassion.
Well, that's really good. That's really good. That shows an evolution, doesn't it?
Thank you.
So ultimately, Lance,
Yes.
it comes down to practice.
Well, yes.
Bottom line, it comes down to practice.
Absolutely. So
We can talk about it.
These little prayers these can be our mantras. These are the things that we can repeat over and over. Do a mile around of these things. You want to know Ratna and Baba? Do a mile around of this.
Yeah, we can sit around, listen. We can sit around and come on Fridays and, but ultimately it comes down to us having devotion and practicing on a daily basis to familiarize ourselves with this.
Of becoming the heart thoughts.
Exactly.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm using my analogy again a little bit. If you, as we go through these different off ramps, you seem, well, there are two choices. It's either you go into the dull light or you go into the bright light. Why doesn't it talk more about if you don't do either of those, then you go to the next stage, the next day?
It does, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. So we're looking at each individual day, and then we'll start, expanding and seeing how the flow of things goes. So,
Okay.
so you're getting a little far, a little in front of ourselves here.
Let me ask you this: is maybe you might want to put this off, but so I'm thinking about that very mechanically. But just thinking about it, if you keep making it through without going to the dull light, why don't you ride by default at some other state? Why do you end up having to go into birth if you've managed to dodge all the off ramps?
You'll see.
Oh, stay tuned.
We'll get there. It's not a short thing that I can say that would be meaningful without going through all this and getting to the part when we talk about that. The important thing is that at each of these stops, as you say, now we have the opportunity for the clear light, for the bright light. That's what we need to familiarize ourselves with. Forget about the fact right now that we might be reborn, but we want to we want to be the light. We want to remain in the Bardo of reality. That's the important thing. That's what we're trying to break through. That's the thing that we need to practice for. The other part will take care of itself.
I guess
And we've all been there many times. We've all been born many times, and we've all died many times. We've all been in this Bardo of reality and the Bardo of death and so on. And the more that we do practice, that we go into samadhi, the more that we begin to recognize these heart thoughts. We begin to recognize these lights. We begin to recognize these similes and so on. In our human mind, we have more things to be able to recognize. So it's all familiar to us. We just have to avail ourselves of that familiarity.
Okay, go.
Lance,
Yes.
I wanted to ask you what comforting words you might have for me. When we read this part about, oh, don't worry about these lights and sounds. It's just, nothing can happen to you. You're dead already.
Right.
I personally don't feel comforted by that because you know how even when you dream, you can be frightened. Nothing's actually happening to you, but you can still be frightened. So I'm wondering how it is that this can comfort us. Like, is it like if someone were reading it to you as you were dying, it would be a reminder to you? Or like, in what way really can we take advantage of this pointing out that, no physical harm can come to us? How can we make that actually be allay our fear at that time? That's
To
really
allay your own personal fear or the fear of the person that you're reading it for?
Yeah, the person dying, the person in the Bardo.
Well, it really helps if you have the conviction that there's no fear. But if you are transmitting that fear along with the words that you're reading, that can be picked up, that can contaminate, what it is that you're doing. And this is why, that a noble person, a venerable, would be reading this, and you wouldn't be leaving it to just an ordinary person pick up the book and start reading it, because they wouldn't be able to understand and they wouldn't be able to convey, the profundity of what all this represents and so on. So to be able to overcome that fear is done through the experience, is done through the meditation, is done through the practices, is done through the purification, all these stages and so on, all the things that we learn about deity yoga, all the things that we learn about the stages of meditation, everything that we've been learning about the bodhisattva, the way of the bodhisattva, are all contributing to us being able to overcome that fear, to be able to that we literally, neutralize the fear. We neutralize it. We see that the reason why we're fearing is because we're grasping, we're holding on, and we're creating aversion. Oh, I don't want to go there. I'm holding on to this which I know to be true, and I want that reality. I don't want that reality. I hate that reality. So it speaks to having to do more work here in this living Bardo to be able to neutralize that fear.
Yeah, I mean, I understand partly, what you're saying. Like, in effect, why does the hell realm have suffering? There's no body there. Or maybe there
Well,
is.
you missed the point. You missed the point. That the hell realm is a human realm, that is a psychophysical realm that human beings are in right now. Maybe you've experienced that yourself, or somebody that has. So there's not a place that we can say for sure is here's where the hell is, and here's where the hungry ghost realm is. It's all within us. It's our psychophysical drama that we have to deal with. This is what we're purifying.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
So
Thank
the words of comfort are that you can overcome this, but you got to work for it
Do your practice.
through your practice, through your practice. That's the word. Those are the words of comfort. And there's lots of support for you, but you got to open yourself up to it.
I wanted to share something about daily practice and then ask others what you all might be doing. I mean, Lance, as you go through these, I mean, the richness of all of the skandhas and wisdoms and colors and emotions and realms and qualities of the bodhisattvas. There's so much. And I find that I really have to, as I'm going through the daily prayers and going through each of the Buddhas and their mandalas, pick one or at most two things. So like one day I'll say, okay, today when I'm going through, I'm going to focus on the wisdom or the aggregates that are being purified for each of the Buddha realms. And another day focus on the colors, and another day focus on the various realms. And I find that way at this point, I can feel like I'm working with at least a piece of all of this banquet you've laid out, and not be totally overwhelmed by it and feel like, oh, I can't possibly remember all that. But that's just what I've kind of jury-rigged as a way to kind of edge my way into this. And I'm just real curious how some of the rest of you are getting your arms around all this. I mean, my goodness, this is so vast. And it's one thing to say, yeah, we have to practice it every day. But even to practice it every day is like practicing the entire Dharma. And so I see some heads nodding, but is anybody else finding just something that worked? I'd love to hear.
Is there anybody doing a practice with this? Let me be very specific about that. And all right, Adrian is, okay. So is it something that you do in whole together, or are you doing it in pieces?
Was that a question from me, Lance?
Yeah.
All right. I want the hot seat. What I'm doing right now, my practice is related to channels, winds, and drops for now.
But that doesn't have a direct bearing on this. The question is about this.
About Bardo?
Yes.
The deity practice that I do. So if I do it every day, no.
All right, that's fine. You know, so I think what Debbie's trying to get to, and I think it's a very good question and something that we have to understand, that we do these things, you know, in cycles. You know, we talk about the wheel that goes around. So you might, you know, at this time we're studying this and everything, and maybe right now you feel enthusiastic about, you know, working on this and maybe doing this 2 or 3 days a week, something like that, for a few hours, you know, and doing it. But then after a period of time, say a month or two, and then it kind of fades away and some other things come into your life and you start doing some other things. And if it's Dharma stuff, that's really good. You know, but then at some point, maybe you get back to this. And when you get back to it, you're going around the circle again, but now you're going around the circle now with a little bit more time and experience of having to assimilate this. So the practice doesn't have to be this intense thing that's happening all at one time. It happens in sessions and segments and so on. But we have to engage in the segments. We have to make commitment to ourselves to do these things. So if you all are, what your motivation is for being part of this study group, I'm sure, there's 20 different people and there's 20 different motivations here. But if it's to become the embodiment of this, this is a way to do that. I think maybe Debbie was trying to see if anybody is having that experience, is trying to develop that, or are you waiting for signals from others to say, well, here's how I did it, and this is maybe how you can do it. We're giving you permission to do these things. We've had a physical life. We've had an intellectual life. And most people, all they concern themselves with is their physicality and their intellectualism. Their spirituality, they have completely marginalized in some way or another. But now we're inviting everyone. The Buddha is inviting you. All the deities are inviting you. They're actually pulling you towards your spiritual body, toward your spiritual life. And whether or not you take the hand, if you take the hook and you allow it to come in and let it pull you in, that's up to you.
Well, I try to work with parts of it at a time to answer Debbie's question. Now, I think I mentioned last time, I think I first tried to understand the 5 Dhyani Buddhas in terms of their wisdoms, transmuting the poisons into wisdom. And then I was trying to realize the aggregate connection, so bit by bit. And I'm trying to understand their consorts and more about really what I feel like right now is I'm trying to understand the symbology of the consorts. And if there's a relationship there with the colors, like the dull color, like I'm just not sure. So I'm like trying to go through it and do this in more of an analysis. I'm not just reading the sadhana, but I love the mantra. I feel like there's so many ways to go. You could just immerse yourself in the mantra. I could. Sometimes I feel like what this teaches me is that I should do Mahamudra. How am I going to really be successful during the death process if I don't meditate more? Like, there's just so many ways to go.
Yeah.
Yes, Adrian.
Back to what Debbie was saying. So I'm kind of working on, I'm always trying to find, practical things that I can apply in daily life. And I'm kind of like in the middle of trying this system. Everybody probably, I haven't seen this anywhere, might be very silly, but I'm just going to put it out there to see what everybody thinks. Y'all know what a key rack is, right? Where you put your keys for, your truck, your minivan, your other truck, your whatever. Well, probably this comes from me being an ABA therapist, but where I was teaching kids to express themselves with cards and stuff. But the things that the pictures that we've got from Lance a little while ago about deities, I was thinking to do something like that, to where I put them, instead of a key rack, I have a deity rack. And whenever I step out the door, I pick up one, or 2 or 3 maybe, and take them with me throughout the day. And when I experience, this is where my question came from, to where, like, what are those type of experiences that we shy away in the world, right? It is PTSD, it is fear, it is, fear of death or whatever else. You pull up a card and you do your mantra, you do your visualization, and probably, get deeper into your meditation like that. So I'm kind of like working on a system like that, to bring more focus on this in my daily life, because I have very limited time to actually sit on the cushion to do meditation. But
well, that's a good method. That's a very helpful, and maybe that'll help other people. It's a form of compartmentalizing.
Right.
I'm going to work on this today or this week or something like that. Yeah. I've been doing this for 20 years. And that's what I would do. I say, okay, I'm going to work on this project, and I'm going to, maybe it's going to take me 6 months, but I'm going to do it for 6 months. Or I'm going to have an accumulation. I say I'm going to accumulate so many recitations of a mantra or something like that, like in the Nundro practice or something like that. So I set a goal for myself, and I can do that. I'm able to do that. Not everybody can do that. Maybe it's just, like I said, you've got to discipline yourself. The first thing that the Buddha taught was discipline. When the Buddha was teaching, the Buddha Dharma, the first thing he taught his disciples was discipline. You got to pull yourselves together. You got to take responsibility for yourself, and you got to have focus, and you got to stop doing all these other things, all these non-virtuous things. You got to focus. So this is part of what we need to do.
That's a comment.
Yes, Gail.
As getting older, I've had so many people in my family who've died, the elders. So I've been practicing more. When I first had Bardo Thodol teachings, I was a teenager. It didn't mean much to me, and I didn't practice. But since Kempo did the intense teaching during COVID, I got a good sense of the teaching, and your book that I ordered was absolutely fantastic. I had always had a paperback version of it and commentaries, but with the teachings, it really gave me motivation to go through the prayers, the daily aspirational prayers, and the 49 days with each person that I had lost. And I'm also doing that with those who've been ill and then died, and others with accidents, which again, today, another accident. So someone is on deathbed right now. So I'll start again.
Yeah. To have a focal point like that is very meaningful. Absolutely. The four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. When we see impermanence right there in front of us, that becomes a very strong motivation to get onto the Dharma. But we're running out of time, but I want to be able to give everybody an opportunity to talk if they have something that they would like to say or a question you want to ask. So this is your time. So please speak up.
Yes, in my daily meditative practice, I'm trying to incorporate some of the principles that we're learning in the Bardo Thodol into my life, and lead my life with, as you called, heart thoughts, with loving kindness. So I might not be reciting the aspirational prayers, but all the things we've been learning are constantly going through my head, and I'm trying to incorporate them into me. And I've even had dreams of Debbie reciting the opening prayers and thinking of all these words as I'm waking up, and all the deep meanings of them. The only confusing part, and I understand all the interpretations, is it gets confusing with all the different colors and all. I understand going to the bright light. I've experienced that in meditations, very intense light. So I understand that meaning because I've seen it. But it gets confusing thinking of all the things we've learned with the different families and their connection with yellow lights and rainbow lights and so on. And I'm trying to put that aside as look at the whole picture, as you mentioned earlier, what this means. And I understand that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are you taking notes?
Yes, I
Good.
am.
Okay. Well, then what we're doing now is we're going to spend time on these first 5 days that, as it's laid out here, these first 5 days. And then we're going to kind of zoom out a little bit. And then we're going to start looking at these individual days now as a group and be able to start seeing things in a broader sense. So first, we're looking at these segments. So we're on the way to be able to do that. But like, Debbie has said, other people have said, it's a lot of stuff.
Yes.
So before we can start reading and writing, we need to learn the alphabet. And then we start putting words together and so on. So I kind of look at things, elementary wise like that and say, well, this might be the best way to learn this. What do you think? Do you have any advice?
No, I understand. I used to be an elementary school teacher, so I know you have to take things apart and start with something very basic and then build on it. So I get that. So I have to be patient.
That's right. We all have to be patient. And that's one of the things that we have about our pridefulness and our arrogance. Oh, I don't need the fundamental stuff. Let's get right to the meat of the stuff here,
I was just coming to what Jane was saying about remembering the families. Lance, is there a mandala that has the families colored?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
We're going to get to that. If you give it out now, then everybody starts tearing it apart before they have some semblance of what it all is. So
Gotcha.
So we're if you're taking notes, that's really good. And then you'll start seeing how it all starts fitting together. So as Jane just said, we dissect things, we pull things apart, then we pull them back together again. As we put things back together again, one of the things that we're getting rid of are our preconceptions, our pre-misconceptions. The idea is that we thought were true, but then we say, oh, well, that's really not true. Why am I even thinking about that? So we're going to get there very soon.
Lance?
Yes. Yes. William.
Day. It's William.
Yes, William.
Yeah, this is a 40-day program that you do with a dead person?
Typically, it's done for 49 days.
49 days.
Yes.
Okay, and this has got day 1 and day 2 in here.
Yes.
All 49 days are in this group of writing here.
Yes.
So in other words, it's a repetitive thing that you go over every day.
Yes, if you were being strict and you were reading this for someone every day, you would read the whole entire book. But that may not be practical, but that's the way it's done. If you contact the monastery and you request and make an offering to the monastery, they will have monks who are reading this every single day.
Within the 49 days, is the person reincarnated?
Maybe. We don't know. But we're just moving in the direction of the 49 days. And by the time of the 49th day, they will have reincarnated in some manner or another, but they might have done it in the first day, they might have done it in the second day or the 24th day, we don't know. But we're committing to these 49 days to do this.
I found it helpful, Lance, when you said, I think it was last week, that the days are for us, for the person who has passed, they're beyond time.
That's right. That's right. So part of this is the study. Sogyal Rinpoche was so wise. His genius was to be able to retitle this book as the Book of Living and Dying. Because it's the same message, but there is an approach for those who are living and there's an approach for those who have died, all within the same book.
So what is the thing for the living?
The
What
thing
is
for the living is developing your meditation practices, become familiar with Ratnasambhava, with becoming familiar with Ascobia, becoming familiar with Samantabhadra, and all these different deities that we're now identifying now. And I want to point out, it would be really good for all of us to learn how to pronounce the names really good. So you should spend some time with each of these. And if you're not pronouncing the words, you can break the words up in syllables. You know, one of the things about Sanskrit language, it's in syllables. It's very easy to break down a word. And you just need to kind of have a key to know how to do it. And it's not difficult. Once you get the key, everything starts to fit into place. But to learn how to pronounce these names properly and write them out yourself. Vajrasattva, Vajra, Vajra, Sat, S-A-T, Va. Vajra means the wisdom mind. Sat means a human being, means a being. And Va means a holy being. So it's Vajrasattva, it's Bodhisattva. Bodhi means enlightenment. Sat means a being. Va means a holy being. It's the holy enlightened being. So spend some time trying to get these words out. And if you're not sure what they are, then that's something to talk about in our next meeting. Say, well, how do I pronounce this? That's a perfect question. But, you know, we should be talking the same way. We're talking the same language and pronouncing, you know, as close to perfectly as we can. Now, I fracture things more than anybody, believe me, but we do make an effort to try and do it properly. So let that be, you know, part of the discipline is learning how to do that.
Well, Lance, you know, like you've been teaching on Saturday nights, basically the pronunciations, the meaning of the 5 wisdoms, the 4 kayas. And, you know, it just takes a couple hours on Saturdays to pay a little attention, and a lot of wisdom is being taught there. And it just takes a little effort, just a little effort.
Well, thank you. And Monday night, we do Buddhism 101.
Mm-hmm.
And Saturday nights, we've been doing Buddhism 102, which is like an extension of the 101. And thank you for mentioning it. And not this Saturday, not tomorrow night, but next week, we're going to start showing the Milarepa film that is 8 hours long. And we're going to do it in segments. And it is the entire life of Milarepa, who is considered to be the saint of Tibet. And it's based on this book, The Life of Milarepa, and all the dialogue is in Tibet. But I have a very good Tibetan friend we've recorded the narration on top of the video. So we're going to be able to know what is being said and what the context it's being said in, what we're seeing on the screen and so on. So Saturday nights, we're going to be doing that starting next week. So everybody's welcome to join us for that. So yeah, so we're doing other things. I think Tom's point was that we're doing other things to support, you know, the fundamentals of the culture, of what this all is, you know, how we communicate this all with each other. All right, so.
Well, Lance, one question.
Sure, Dan.
For Saturday, what time Eastern Standard Time is that?
7 o'clock Eastern Time.
Okay.
And there's another link for that. If anybody wants to join, you're welcome to send me an email so I can send you the link. It's a different link than this one.
Okay.
For
7 o'clock Mondays too, everybody.
So, yeah, so the one link is for all the Buddhism 101 stuff. So once you get that link, you can get on all the other things. And it's been very helpful. And it's been a group that has grown, and one that people stay in the group. We go through cycles and people continue through the cycle. So we repeat ourselves periodically every few months, so that if you miss something the first time, you might be getting it the second time or the third time or something. So it's the way the Tibetans teach, and maybe it's the way that you teach when you're in elementary school. You don't realize it, but things are cycled round and round and round because you're not going to get it the first time.
That's how we do it every lifetime.
Yeah. So everybody's welcome to join us for that.
Sounds excellent. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
I just posted the information you sent out recently, Lance.
Oh, well, thank you. Very good. All right, that's terrific. So you can get it off of the chat. All right, so we're at the end of our time. So I think tonight, Debbie, if we can do the prayers, the closing prayers that we normally do, that we do sometimes. So can you put them up on the screen and we can recite those? So the Amitabha prayer that we're going to recite is the prayer to be reborn in the blissful land of Dewachan, or Sukhavati. Sukhavati is the Pure Land of Buddha Amitabha. And we're going to do that next week. When we talk, we're going to be talking about the Amitabha family, the Padma family, the Lotus family. So, Debbie, will you recite this, please?
Emaho. In the center is the marvelous Buddha Amitabha of boundless light. On the right side is Avalokiteshvara, the Lord of great compassion. On the left is Vajrapani, the Lord of powerful means. All are surrounded by limitless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Immeasurable peace and happiness is the blissful pure land of Dewachan. When I and all beings pass from samsara, may we be born in Dewachan without taking samsaric rebirth. May I have the blessing of meeting Amitabha face to face. By the power and blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, may I attain this aspiration without hindrance. Tayata Pensadriya Awa Bodhanaye Soha. Tayata Pensadriya Awa Bodhanaye Soha. Tayata Pensadriya Awa Bodhanaye Soha. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase, higher and higher. By this virtue, may I achieve all knowingness by defeating all enemies' confusion. May all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of suffering. As Manjushri the warrior realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all the merit for all sentient beings.
Everybody visualize Om Mani Padme Hung Shri, and from your heart going out to all the beings that are in the Bardo of reality, in the Bardo of becoming, the Bardo of living, that all this is going out. Behold the jewel in the lotus. Om Mani Padme Hung Shri. 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 Awo Padme Hum Shri. Awo Mani Padme Hum Shri. Om 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 Mani Padme Hum Shri. Aum Mani Padme Hum Shri. Aum Mani Padme Hum Shri. Om 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 Mani Padme Hum Shri. Aum Mani Padme Hum Shri. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Thank you all very much. Om Ah Hum. Om Ah Hum. Om Ah Hum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones. Thank you all very much. See
Thank
you all
you,
next.
Lance. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you so much, Lance.